The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
So it came to mind a story I once heard from Rabbi Tovia Liv Shlita. This is many years ago. A bridge or an overpass in Minneapolis collapsed, and it took down a lot of cars with it, including a car driven by a younger man from the community. And I don't know this younger man's name, but let's call him Nachshon. I don't know why I think Nachshon, and I may not have jumped in the water. And fortunately for Nachshon, he went down at the very beginning of the overpass. So it wasn't that much of a drop. It was only a few feet above the water, and his car landed horizontally. I don't want to bring back the memories when your cars were underwater, but his car landed horizontally, and for now he was still above water, but the danger was far from being over. Nachshon knew that it would only be a minute or two before the car would submerge. So he desperately tried to open the door, but it refused to budge. Could not get the door open. Now, let's just sidetrack here for a moment. For the last few weeks, Nachshon had indeed been submerged, but he was submerged in a world of chesed. Nachshon had joined a shiur given in his shul there in Minneapolis in the Chavetz Chaim Sefer Ahavas Chesed, and Nachshon was particularly moved by one perik in the Sefer. In the third perik, the Chavetz Chaim reminds us of the inevitable scale we have to face after 120, right? Mitzvahs on one side, Averos on the other side, and of course we all hope that our mitzvahs will outweigh the Averos. Alas, it's not so simple. Because even if according to our count, our mitzvahs are well ahead, that does not mean that we're out of the woods. Because it doesn't work like, 1,000 mitzvahs, 900 Averos, you won. It doesn't work that way. In Shemayim, it has to be decided which mitzvahs count fully and which ones are too incomplete to be registered with their full weight. The mitzvahs lacking ahava, lacking yira, lacking real meaning, lacking feeling. And the same is true for considering or not considering the full weight of our Averos. As you've often said, the Rebbe Rav Zisha said he saw many Averos that were created by Averos of Yidden. They're not full Averos. They're, missing the Malachim. So many Malachim created by Averos of Yidden, they're either missing a wing, missing an eye, missing a nose. Because the Yid does an Aver, he gives a crack. He says, okay, next time, I'll eat now, my diet's starting tomorrow. He's always trying to do tshuva. So, as a result of this, we do mitzvahs and Averos, but there's a yet to be determined weight or value factor to our mitzvahs and our Averos. So two neshamas can go up with the same count of respective good and bad deeds, but wind up with the scale weighing down on opposite sides. So more often than not, we may be in need of tremendous chesed, that the Eibishter refigure the pressures on both sides so that it reaches a positive outcome. Anyway, Nachshon was so inspired that he boosted himself into a world of chesed, and he did whatever he could to help whomever needed assistance in the community, including a lot of self-sacrifice endeavors that most even good-hearted people shied away from. And when he was challenged that perhaps he was taking this to an extreme, so Nachshon just kept singing the refrain. He said, chesed is an equilibrium. He says, we can't afford not to have it on our side. And now Nachshon is fighting for his life. He's sitting in his car and his vehicle is sinking and the door won't open. And the events of the next minute came in a whirlwind. And if Nachshon's situation wasn't precarious enough, so a metal girder that must have fallen from the bridge's frame came crashing through the back window. And the car was filling up with water at a horrific speed. And basically it was time to say vidui. And suddenly when it looked like its curtains, looked like he's going to get to see that scale talk up there in Shemayim, the door swung open. And Nachshon was swept out of the car into the water, and rescuers saw his head bobbing in and out of the water. And Nachshon was pulled out seconds before he lost consciousness. And hours later, so investigators were interviewing him, and they were sitting at the side of his hospital bed, and the local government officials were eager to hear from many people as quickly as possible in order to piece together a preliminary report what happened. And Nachshon gave them a play-by-play, detailed report of the harrowing sequence of events. And one of the engineers sitting there, he just threw his clipboard down on a chair, let out a whistle, shook his head in disbelief, and he said, do you realize what a miracle happened to you? He said there was no way in the world that you could have pushed the door open. No human being would have had the power to push away the water pressure against the door. But what happened was when this metal thing that fell from the bridge came crashing through your back window, so what were you thinking? He said, my car is filling up with water. I was thinking, prepare for departure. That's what I was thinking. So the engineer said, it saved you. You see, your car filled up with water, and you were still trying to get the door open. And it was only possible for you to open the door because now the pressure of the water inside pushing outside was equal to the pressure of the water outside pushing inside. So it was two forces that were at equal level. Any little thing was the machriya, tipped the scale. So he said, your last attempt at the last moment to open the door was successful because the force you mustered was enough, and he used the words to break the equilibrium. And when he heard the word equilibrium, he just started jumping on the bed, and they were scared maybe it did affect him, maybe it hit his, and he was almost dancing on his bed with excitement. Equilibrium, that's what he was saying all along. That's it. He said, that's what saved his life. Chavetz Chaim knew it all along. Chesed is the equilibrium push to life.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org